Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, it is Thursday. You know what that means, John? Have any idea?
So happy it's Thursday.
Yes, so happy it's Thursday. We have two so happy it's days of the week, Tuesday and Thursday. It is September 4th, 2025. I hesitate that for a minute because I'm thinking to myself, what's the date today? September 4th, 2025. Okay, before I go any further, or farther, which one is it? Is it further or farther?
How about just longer? How about longer, Brad?
That's what she said. Before I go any further, I want to thank the Dave Sinclair family because once again, I went for my prostate screening last night.
Once again?
Yeah.
How did it go, Brad?
Well, I had a nurse that I have to be honest with you. I've been stuck many times before. Many, many, many times. Matter of fact, this year, too many times.
Let's finish that sentence, Brad. You've been stuck where by a female nurse?
She got me right in the arm. And It was so good, I barely even felt it. I mean,
that's also what she said, Brad.
That's what she said, yes. First off, let me give you the background in this. I don't know if Dave Sinclair, the original Dave Sinclair, died of prostate cancer, but apparently the Sinclair family is very, very much into prostate cancer screening, and they do this every year. Matter of fact, last night was at their South County dealership, the GMC Buick dealership right there, Tesson Ferry in Lindbergh. I believe they are doing this, and I'll double check on this, and I wish they'd buy some advertising from me. Heaven knows I've bought enough cars from them. But they do it at their three dealerships, typically Wednesday. So I don't know if next week is going to be the Ford dealership down at Lindbergh and Lee Ferry, or the weekend after that's going to be, or the Wednesday after that's going to be the Lincoln dealer out in St. Peter's. I don't know. But if you're a dude, it's a free screening. It's done by Urology of St. Louis. It's very simple. You walk in the door. They give you a clipboard. You fill out the stuff in the clipboard. You hand it back in. You walk up to the nurse. She takes the blood sample, and you're out the door. I think I was in and out literally in 6 or 7 minutes. And quite a few people there, and they were just knocking them out. And then in a couple weeks, I get it in the mail. You give them you put your address on an envelope, and then in a couple weeks in the mail, you get your report that hopefully mine will be like all the other ones. And I've done this, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now, where I am prostate cancer free. At least that's what the report says. So hopefully that'll be the thing. Okay, second thing, John, I've got a problem this morning, and I may have to be away from the microphone for a minute because I have a severe nosebleed. I do not know what's going on.
Oh, no, Brad.
Normally, I don't get nosebleeds.
You think maybe it's your prostate?
Maybe it's my prostate.
Did they go up? Well, never mind, Brad. Go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry to hear that, Brad.
That's not the way they didn't go through my nose. Although I've had that done recently, and that was no fun. Not a prostate exam, but I've had the thing. I think I told the story on the air where I went to the clinic and they stuck the thing up my nose to look down my throat, and I'm going like, this is
horrific.
Yeah,
so your point is that you have a nosebleed. Will you need me to filibuster at some point, Brad? Maybe a freestyle rap or something?
Just before I went on, I mean, literally just before I hit the intro, it seems like it's stopped. Otherwise, that I've got a nice, hand towel that I think is going to end up in the rag bin, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, that is John Combest, Combest, and the reason I spell his name is because of the fact you need to type that into your electronic devices you access the internet. Not going to give you all the choices. I'll just say whatever you use. Put a John in front of it, John, Combest.com. It's an amazing website that has been around for 23 plus years. John has never missed a day. It's like the Drudge Report, like in the old days of the Drudge Report, when the Drudge Report was good. It's like the old-timey Drudge Report for the state of Missouri. And it's not fancy. There's not a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, you don't have any ads on it. And it's funny because one of the first things I said to John, I said, John, why don't you have any ads? And John got all mad and hung up the phone and says, I'm not talking to you, Brett.
I did? Yeah, thanks, Brett. I've had ads on the website since May, but thank you for going to my website and noticing.
I know you have. I'm kidding you about that. Okay, so what we do is we bring in this guy right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And John calms him down, and we start off with...
In third place.
Yesterday, I said that the number one story was taking all the oxygen out of the proverbial room in Missouri politics. So let's put it at number 3 today, Brad, because we've talked about it pretty much every day. for the last couple weeks, and that's Missouri's redistricting program. You know, the media, the mainstream media and progressive blogs, they call it Trump's redistricting scheme. That's what you'll see if you go to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch today. Lawmakers convened yesterday. They were only there for a few minutes because committee hearings to discuss redistricting start today. If you want a firsthand view of what one of the key players says about this, go hear what Emanuel Cleaver has to say. He's the congressman from Missouri's 5th district. That's over what used to just be pretty much the Kansas City area. And under this new proposed map would reach from Kansas City to mid-Missouri. Congressman Cleaver was on Scott Fawn's This Week in Missouri Politics, TWMP Daily yesterday. Excuse me. Brad, what I thought was interesting about the conversation, two things. Cleaver points out that Missouri is not the only state to do funky redistricting. Yesterday, you and I discussed Illinois' Finger District, even their Grafenberg District. We discussed how wacky Illinois' map was. And Cleaver concedes that, yes, Illinois' map is ridiculous as well. That doesn't mean Missouri needs to go off and do its own ridiculous map just to be like Illinois. That was the first interesting, noteworthy thing I think Cleaver said, because it's rare to hear a Democrat criticize other Democrats, particularly strong Democrat states. The second thing is that Scott asked, hey, so are you running? And Cleaver, in my opinion, Brad, gave a non-convincing answer. Cleaver said something to the effect, if I recall correctly, that, well, yeah, like, of course we're running as of now in whatever district this is. Brad, it seemed to me that Cleaver didn't seem convinced that he would be running for re-election. Now, I could be reading too much into this. I didn't watch the full, I believe it's Scott's with him for 22 minutes. Scott's with him for a while. The video is 22 minutes. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch that piece. It seemed unconvincing that Cleaver would run for re-election. You know, there's a bunch of young guns over there in Kansas City, young black guys that are always aiming for Cleaver's spot. Maybe it's time that Cleaver says, I've had enough of this, and I walk away. I don't know. So I would suggest folks go listen to that or watch that. Also, Scott had House Super Minority Leader Ashley Aune on, and she's always an interesting interview. She talked about the inherent ridiculousness of redistricting. Of course, she doesn't like it because Democrats are in a super minority here. And she makes some pretty good points about the value of having a strong minority party in a state like Missouri that's generally been under one-party rule. So, as you might expect, redistricting ruled the day yesterday in Missouri politics, and won't be done, actually. I started to say we'll probably be done with this pretty soon, but we could expect that the redistricting map will end up in the courts. Democrats will most certainly challenge this and say that not only is it the wrong thing to do, but that it's unconstitutional to do it mid-decade. So our number one story yesterday remains in the top three. It's just at number 3 today, Brad.
Interesting stuff. Now, they're still in session today, correct?
Correct, yeah. So the committees that actually will be looking at both initiative petition changes or what morons call IP reform, we'll be discussing that today and then also be discussing redistricting today as well.
John, I love it when you call me a moron. I love it.
Do you say IP reform once a day on this show, Brad?
Who do you think I am? Andrew Bailey? No, I don't say it once a day.
Oh, Brad, go ahead.
Okay, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
I included this story as number 2 because our number 2 story and our number 1 story are in ways an homage to my friend and yours, Brad Hildebrand. A headline from St. Louis Public Radio: Spire gas rates will go up 10% this fall after Missouri regulators approve increase. Now, Brad, this story has a unique Spanish Lake angle, which is why I associate it with you. I also associate Spire and every utility with you kvetching about rates. So ratepayers, you know, if you happen to have Spire, I know you're a big Spire fan, if I recall correctly, Brad. The average rate, according to Spire, the average residential customer's bill in eastern Missouri will increase only 10%. That's roughly $8.21 per month. But wait, it gets better. Because of the declining price of natural gas over the summer, ratepayers can expect to pay a little bit less than last year, Brad. You know, part of what you pay is based on the actual cost of good old UNG. If you want to buy the commodity on the market, you can buy it at UNG. That's not financial advice. Anyway, natural gas prices are cheaper now, Brad, than they were, say, a year ago. So you're probably going to get a little bit better deal on natural gas before. But let me guess, the Brad Hildebrands of the world are going to be all mad about a 10% increase. Brad, if you want to kvetch about it, make your point about it, and then don't let me forget to bring up a good Spanish Lake angle to this.
Well, bring up the Spanish Lake angle now so I don't forget.
Okay. Spire, Brad, according to the latest data that I got from the Missouri Ethics Commission right in front of me, Spire has 13 lobbyists working in Jefferson City. That's right, 13. The longest tenured lobbyist working on behalf of the good folks at Spire is a guy named Tim Green. Do you happen to recognize that name, Brad?
Is that Dave Green's brother?
Yeah, it's spelled a little bit differently. But folks who were around the legislature, you know, probably starting, 30 plus years ago, will remember the name Tim Green, a longtime legislator from beautiful Spanish Lake, lived right off of Aragon. If you ever go down Larimore, you bust a right on Cordova, you end up right there on Aragon. Tim Green lived right there, a long-running state representative. Back in the days, Brad, we used to have guys in North St. Louis County that were Democrats, pro-union, pro-gun, pro-life. That's what the pipe fitters were, Brad. So we had a lot of proud Spanish Lake Democrats, just like Tim Green. But I'm pulling a Brad Hildebrand. I'm getting off the main track here. Spire has 13 lobbyists. So shout out to the Spire folks, because this, I think, is a hard environment for utilities to get rate increases approved, because, you know, everybody's mad about, people are going to be mad about Ameren. Then a tornado comes in and people are going to be mad at utilities. Then maybe if the economy isn't chugging along, people are going to take it out on utilities and call them a monopoly. So it's not really easy, I think, to go to the Public Service Commission and ask for a 10% rate increase or something tantamount to that. So good job on behalf of the people from Spire, Brad. They did a good job getting their rate increase passed. And, you know, the Brad Hildebrands of the world are going to kvetch about it, but they got what they wanted, Brad.
No.
Ticker symbol SR if you're into buying. And Brad, here's a tip that I haven't given for probably 6 months. If you don't like paying utility bills and you get mad about rate increases, maybe put a little bit of cash, a little bit of your retirement money, into ticker symbol AEE, that's Ameren, or ticker symbol SR. And when you pay your bills every month, you feel a little less bad about giving them money, because you look at your 4% yield and you say, well, at least I get a little bit of this back.
John, I go back to, here's something you're going to be amazed at from me, because of the fact that I'm, unlike a lot of people, I'm not a true dyed-in-the-wool super right-wing conservative, even though I have started the Super Freedom Caucus, but that's a whole other story.
You have, which is, and Brad, did you go back, I already know the answer to this, but did you go back and actually fix the spelling when you spelled caucus wrong?
It was never spelled wrong to begin with.
Yeah, I sent you the screenshot yesterday, Brad. It is spelled wrong on your own website. Go ahead, though.
I say we roll it back to the previous administration, and we essentially do what they were doing, where you're going to outlaw gas grills, gas stoves, gas water heaters, gas, what am I missing? Gas heat, and we don't need Spire anymore, so they can raise their prices. They can raise it 100%, and no big deal, because nobody will be using gas. What do you think, John?
What I love about your solutions is they're always so feasible, Brad. It's kind of like your idea for topsoil yesterday, which leads into story number one.
John, once again, John references my situation.
Once again, that's your second. I'm keeping a tally today. You have one matter of fact and two once agains.
Years ago, there was a gas leak at my house on the outside, shall we say, on the consumer side of the meter, okay? Which means...
And Spire handled this correctly, and nobody MF'd you in court, allegedly, right, Brad?
No, and I said the interesting part of it was I kept getting this huge gas bill in the summer when we did not have, the only thing we had in our house was gas heat. So in the summer, the heat wasn't on. I didn't have a gas water heater, had an electric water heater, had an electric range because that was in the house when we bought it. But we had gas heat. So I kept complaining and the guy would come out and fix it and then it would go bad. We had some kind of a bad fitting. So I get this bill from Spire. I'm going like, dudes, I'm not using any gas. Yes, you are. So they took me to court. And the attorney MF'd me in court.
Sure,
me in
and
court.
we take that at face value, right, Brad?
He did, John, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and now, Brad, just to give folks a sense of how long ago this is, was the company called Spire back then, or was it still Union Electric?
No, it was called Ripoff Incorporated.
There you go. So this shows how long Brad is carrying a grudge. And the attorney, of course, was not actually with Spire. It was surely a contract attorney that Spire paid. However, Brad, you're so vengeful and petty that an incident that happened years ago, you're going to hold it against an entire company for one snafu that happened years ago.
I can still remember the law firm. It was Dewey.
I bet you can, and everybody remembers that story because you tell it once a month. You know what we don't talk about once a month? Topsoil. Let's get to story number one, Brad.
It was Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. That was the law firm. Okay, number one.
The number one.
Yesterday, if folks go to the September 3rd edition of our show, in C Block, Brad told a riveting story about how there's a gentleman peddling topsoil. Brad, you had a little cash envy, topsoil envy, because at your radio transmitter site, you have such great topsoil and you're sitting on it, but you can't profit from it. So you were talking about topsoil. And this hook to story number one today, Brad, is that you talked about the fact that you were, quote, 95% certain, unquote, that Lewis and Clark actually camped on the land that is your radio transmitter.
Yes,
and you
true.
could probably go into excruciating, painful detail, and I'll mercifully save our listeners from that.
Go ahead.
Brad, it's that pioneer spirit which you celebrate a lot on this show. But not everybody loves pioneers. Not everybody loves frontiersman talk. No, there's a gentleman at MSNBC. His name is Jahan Jones. And he wrote something called Black Hair Defined. That's one of his books. He also used to do Joy Reid's blog called The Readout. And he also used to work with Joy Reid on that type of MSNBC stuff. And here's the crux of it. Here's the tie to Missouri today. And you can find a link to this, of course, on johncombest.com. Eric Schmitt spoke at something called the National Conservatism Conference. We talked about it roughly a year ago because Josh Hawley was there. And people got real mad about Josh Hawley, and they called him a white nationalist. Well, Eric Schmitt goes this year, and Eric Schmitt is now being labeled by Mr. Jones as a racist. And I want to point out, Brad, something you'll probably like, you white nationalist, you white Christian nationalist. Eric Schmitt talked about, quote, the real American nation. He also used the phrase, a pitchfork revolution, driven by the millions of Americans who felt that they were turning into strangers in their own country. Brad, I don't know why we need to talk about frontiersmen and pioneers and a pitchfork revolution when really what we're saying is we just want only white people here. You know, as Mr. Jones points out, this type of language about what is an American sounds a lot like groups called, quote, Return to the Land and all those other racists, Brad. So when Schmitt talks about the pioneering spirit of the United States and he talks about the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims, he's actually just being a plain old racist, Brad. I bet he's the kind of guy that would go to a radio station transmitter site and say, oh, Lewis and Clark were once here. Anyway, you're in great company, Brad. Why don't you go celebrate some white guys that stole land from Indians?
John, you know what's pretty interesting about that? It's funny as you might not believe what I'm going to tell you, but I after we got off the air yesterday, I did more research on this because of the fact I knew you were going to say, there's no way Brad's transmitter site used to be where Lewis and Clark camped out. And what's fascinating about it is if you read the you know, you can still read the diaries. They're online. It's pretty interesting stuff. But the historians talk about the fact that all the different Indian tribes that were at war with each other as they moved up and down down the Missouri. And at one point in time, there was one tribe that was blocking any trappers and things like that, any white trappers from coming further north. This is where the Missouri goes north and south along the Kansas-Missouri border. They were blocking the Missouri River because they did not want the white folks to get the various things they were getting from the other Indian tribe north of them. They wanted to get their stuff sold to the white people. So see, once again, even when we categorize, the Americans fought the Indians fought themselves before we came around. That's well documented history that the various tribes of the Indians were sometimes some of the tribes, if you go back in history, were wiped out by other Indian tribes. Get what I'm saying, John?
I do get what you're saying, Brad. And I mean, first of all, I can't believe that the general American narrative about Indians just being a peaceful people, I can't believe that's not true. Meanwhile, Brad, I had a friend of mine put together a blanket for you. Why don't you take this blanket and go just snuggle with that blanket? Breathe deeply. Inhale that blanket deeply, Brad.
John, pull your headphones off just a little bit, but
I'm ready.
You may not realize this, but some people will say that there was no recording devices back in the 18th, it would be the 19th century, which would have been like 1804. But one of the guys who was way ahead of the time, who was on the Lewis and Clark journey, one of the guys had this very primitive recorder. And when he got in between two Indian tribes who were not having, good things to say to each other, this guy pulled out his recorder, and Chief Wanamakabaka said,
I want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
That's what he said, John.
I didn't even know that PCP was around back then.
Okay. My GPS clock tells me we're way behind schedule. We have to take a break.